Today on the DML News Podcast, so much going on with the Trump administration, I don't even know how to start. So we're just going to tell you there's a lot of stuff coming, and it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Across from me is my son Dennis. On the controls, my son Ryan. We come to you here every single day that we possibly can. The good Lord lets us do it, and we talk to you about 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and his administration is doing one hell of a job. Never seen anything like it. 4 weeks in, not even. This Friday will make 4 weeks, and the advancements we have made in terms of cleaning up this country is almost impossible to report on. We have a newsletter called 47 Report, which you could sign up for at 47report.com. It is fastly growing into the number one and only resource that you would ever need and ever want if you are a Trump supporter, if you are a person who loves America and you want to see the advancements of this country move forward. It takes us so long to do this. Dennis is up until about midnight getting his end done. I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. In fact, today I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning getting my side of it done. And at some point, we're like, all right, we got to cut it off here because it's getting too long. That's how many things are being done with this administration. We're going to talk about a lot of it here today. But go to 47report.com, 47report.com. Put your email address in. It is completely free. You need to do nothing else. The next morning, you'll look up, boom, it's in your inbox before 7 a.m. Eastern time, many times even before 6. If you don't get it in your inbox, go to your spam folder. Doesn't matter if you have Gmail, Yahoo, whatever. They're going to throw it in the spam because that's what scumbags do. So all you have to do is mark it as saying, no, I want this in my inbox. You put it back in. And on top of that, the best thing to do is respond to the newsletter itself, like as if you were sending back an email to a friend. And this way, your email provider knows that this is something that you want to receive every single day. With that being said, one of the things that we discussed today on the 47 Report is how the United States is going to try to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. Since the day that this nonsense started, I've always believed that it was a function of weakness that led this to happen. Joe Biden, the corrupt Joe Biden, and his corrupt family, and his corrupt administration, and the corrupt media who supports him, allowed this to all unfold. And the countless deaths that have taken place is one thing. Horrible, horrifying. But the amount of money and resources that the United States of America has given to Ukraine, and for what in return, none of us, not one single person with brains filled with common sense, I don't care if you got a PhD, you can't come to me and tell me what it is that we got out of this. You can't tell me what it is that the billions upon billions and the hundreds of billions of dollars that we got in return. We got nothing. Now, if Donald J. Trump was the president of the United States, if the election wasn't stolen from him in 2020, this war never happens. So now Trump has to deal with Joe Biden's mess. One of many. So he has Marco Rubio and a couple of other top officials over right now, started off in the Middle East. Now they're talking to Russian diplomats. They're talking to Russian officials. And they're trying to bring an end to this war. Now, amazingly, the Europeans, who have done absolutely nothing as Ukraine has been pounded time and time again, just kept on looking to the United States, the Europeans don't like the fact that we're having these conversations without them. Zelensky, Mr. I'm going to come over and pretend like I dress in scrubs, so this way you give me more money. He doesn't like the fact that he's not involved in the negotiations. Well, listen, you little turd. If we thought that you bring value at all, we bring you in. But you're a detriment. You're a detriment to the entire thing. You don't stand a chance going toe-to-toe with somebody like Vladimir Putin, let alone Donald J. Trump. This is sort of like Thanksgiving, where only the adults get to the big table and the kids go sit at the other one. If the European leaders, who are all bitching and moaning right now, whether they're from Germany or France or UK, oh, and by the way, UK says that they're thinking about sending in troops. Which troops are that? The migrants who have just come over and destroyed the entire UK? You're going to send them in? If these people think that they're such great negotiators, where have they been for the last few years? Where? They've been MIA. And I don't mean Miami. I mean missing in action. Donald J. Trump knows what has to happen here. Vladimir Putin is going to have to come away with something. Something. There is absolutely no way that Vladimir Putin is going to say, okay, I'm just done. Although he's showing an indication that he wants to stop the war, that he does not want to keep it going, Vladimir Putin is not going to just fold up tent and walk away because Donald J. Trump said that it's time to end it all. Get ready for something that's going to come. I guarantee you this. As much as I've got a Florida Hawaiian shirt on today, I guarantee you this is about to come. Here's how it's going to work. Donald J. Trump and Vladimir Putin are going to have a conversation. Now, they're going to go into that conversation. Donald Trump knows that the number one thing that Vladimir Putin does not want is for Ukraine to become part of NATO. Okay. Vladimir Putin understands Trump and understands that Trump wants the world to believe and see that he was the superhero who was able to stop the war. Both of them are going to play into each other. But ultimately, in this particular case, Vladimir Putin is going to hold the upper hand because Vladimir Putin is the one who ultimately has to say, I'm stopping. Trump is the one who will get the rewards. He'll get the accolades. Maybe his face will actually even go up on Mount Rushmore, deservingly so. But with that said, get ready, because to end this war, Vladimir Putin is going to ask for something significant. And I mean significant. And Donald J. Trump is going to have to give him that concession. When he does it, when he gives that concession, whatever that concession is, and I have no idea what it will be, odds are you and I are never going to feel it, not even this little tiny much. We're going to be like, oh, who cares? Give it to them. Who cares? I'll tell you who will care. Zelensky and all of Europe. And you will see for the first time in a very long time that the disconnect between the European nations and the United States of America will be at its worst. Because Europe has gone so woke. If you think we're woke here, take California and put it on steroids. That's what's going on in Europe. Think about this for a second. Over in the UK, you've got men raping girls, getting very light, if any, sentences because they say, well, this is normal practice back where I came from. I'm a migrant. I don't know any better. So they get a little slap on the wrist. But the guy who's lived in the UK his whole life, who goes 4 generations back, if he goes on Facebook and writes, I can't believe we're allowing all these Palestinians and all these migrants in here to rape our women, and he puts it on Facebook, and then you go and share it because you too are living in the UK and you can't believe it, both of you are going to jail. Same thing happens over in Germany. They have gone so out of control that I don't really think that we don't even want to be a part of them anymore. In fact, I have to tell you something. I put this on Twitter yesterday, or X, sorry. The Germans have become so out of control stupid. They believe in this kind of stuff that if you share something that somebody else put up there, that you're just as guilty and you're going to go to jail if you insult somebody online. I drive a BMW. It's German made. I'm thinking about maybe this is the last time because I don't know if the car is going to be safe anymore. What kind of person can make a good car if they can't even make a good judgment about what is and what is not fair, what is and what is not legal, what is and what is not jailable? Donald J. Trump is dominating the world right now. Donald J. Trump is going to end the war in Ukraine and the Russians will pull out. But he's going to give a large concession. And when he gives that concession, I want you to be ready because it is going to have a ripple effect between the United States and Europe that will last for 100 years. Get ready for it, because it is absolutely 100% coming. The great news is we won't have to be sending hundreds of billions of dollars anymore to just waste on the Ukrainians and Zelensky's secret chest, which I guarantee you he has, laden with gold and silver and lots of Benjamins. Dennis, speaking of gold and silver.
Actually, we do have a video where the Russian minister, one of Vladimir Putin's top Russian ministers, Sergei Lavrov, who's part of that delegation.
Yes.
He talks about how great the Trump delegation team has been in negotiations. We do have that clip.
Play it.
Well, I think it's very important to build bridges. I think U.S.-Russia relations are very important for the world.
Yeah.
I think it's very important that U.S.-Russia cooperate together and jointly we can solve problems.
But when you say better relations and better cooperation, isn't what you really want the lifting of sanctions on Russia? There's lots of them.
No, not at all. I think what's very important for us, no, I think what we want is good dialogue. Actually, it's U.S. businesses who lost $300 billion from leaving Russia. So I think it's very important that by not working together, U.S. economy is having big toll. $300 billion have been lost by U.S. businesses. Well, yes, we had some meetings with Trump team members, and all I can say is that they're great problem solvers. And I think President Trump is a great problem solver, and also his team is a team of a great problem solvers.
What has that team promised you here?
No, I think the promise is let's have dialogue. Let's figure out the best solution for our countries, for other countries, for the global community.
I got to say, I mean, Trump's been keeping Marco Rubio pretty busy. He was first in Latin America, at Panama, and different countries around there. And now he's in Europe, and now, or was in Europe, and now he's in Saudi Arabia for the peace talks. So I think if there's going to be a real outcome produced with the end of this war, it's going to happen through these delegations in Riyadh.
Well, I think that Vladimir, again, you know, look, we're humongous Trump fans here. We're dedicating our entire day between the newsletter and the podcast here, everything Trump, 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 Trump. But I'm going to say something right now that maybe people are going to be a little bit offended by, but ultimately, you know, it's true. Trump has become a different person. His humility is so nice to see. But at the end of the day, his core person is still his core person, and he is somebody who's got a tremendous ego. And Vladimir Putin is a strategic guy. He's not playing games. And he understands that the best way to get to Trump and get what you want is to shower him with praise. And so that's why when you look at something like that, do not think for 1 second that the Russians did not sit around a room and say, what's the best way to handle this? Well, let's kiss Trump's ass. Let's tell him how great he is. And therefore, we will have him in our hand. Now, Trump, at the other hand, says, okay, they're playing to my ego. I get it. I love it. At the same time, I'm Donald J. Trump, and I'm not gonna bend for anybody. But Trump made a promise that he would end this war, and he's gonna have to give, I don't know what it is, Dennis. I can't think of what it is, but he's going to give a massive concession. And like I said, it's going to have ripple effects. But at the end of the day, as far as Americans go and what it is that we've been focused on for the first 3 weeks, America has been basically pissing its money away on nothing. We're all out here working hard, paying our taxes, thinking that it's going to the betterment of America, and can't understand for the life of us why it is that this country is so far in debt and has no money. It just doesn't make sense. And now through Doge and Elon Musk, we are finding out all the ugly little dirty secrets.
Yeah, and when you see some of the mainstream media reporting on it with how the tension is kind of heating up between us and Europe, you know, they keep using the term allies, and I understand that maybe that is the terminology that has been presented as the USA-Europe relationship, but allies usually come in a hand-in-hand tandem. I help you, you help me. Mm-hmm. It's more like acquaintances at this point. You know, I don't feel that Europe has in any measure stepped up in any regard with Ukraine, or the fact that they can't even get their countries under control with the mass migration issues. So I don't understand what their expectation was, that we were just going to continue to foot the bill. They just saw what the American people voted for in November. We don't want to foot that bill. So the fact that they really can't get their act together, I know they tried having the emergency meeting, but I think it just goes to show that since not one Europe leader is over there in Saudi Arabia, they're just not to be taken seriously.
At the end of the day, Americans voted for Donald J. Trump to come in and clean house here in America. We wanted to have the D.C. establishment, the deep state, eradicated. And we wanted to stop spending money around the world that didn't need to be spent. And that's what Trump is doing. And so if we to bring the conversation back to home now, I mean, the big headline yesterday and this morning has been about how it is that Doge, through Elon Musk, found that the Treasury had $4.7 trillion just sitting there to where it was not traceable.
Mm-hmm.
There is a tag, if you will. It's called the Treasury Access Symbol, TAS, and it needs to be plugged on every dollar. So this way we see where the dollars are going. And it wasn't. So it would allow anybody to spend any kind of money they want and have no accountability for it whatsoever. We were basically just allowing $4.7 trillion to just hang around and go wherever it wanted. Now, keep in mind something. I looked this morning on the New York Times to see whether or not they were covering this. Fox News had it on the cover of theirs. Newsmax had it on the cover of theirs. New York Times didn't even mention it. Now, here's the amazing part of that. For people who are like, oh, I don't understand really what you're talking about with this TAS, I'm going to bring it into more normal conversation. Bring it home to your own little kitchen table. You spend your money and you write a check, and that check goes to the power company. You write where it is that it's going. You put it in a ledger. Your accountant at the end of the year has to know that you put that money towards your electric bill, or you put money towards a car bill, or whatever it may be. It is part of general accounting rules. Donald J. Trump was actually brought into a courtroom because they said that he didn't put a check to Michael Cohen in the right column, which was total BS because he assigned money to his lawyer under legal expenses, and they wanted it to be under campaign expenses, which was total BS. This man almost went to jail and served time because he did not put the right tag on his check. And we've got $4.7 trillion of American taxpayer money that has not been getting a tag. We have been stolen from left and right. And I'm waiting for that person. Maybe it's Elon Musk. It's got to be somebody with incredible clout that says, you know what? It's time to boycott the IRS. Nobody's paying their taxes on April 15th. That's it. Teach them a lesson. At some point, it's going to come. I'm predicting it. At some point, somebody's going to say something like that. Because if you take even that one and now you bring it into Fort Knox, 1953 is the last time Fort Knox was audited. Tell them what's going on with that now.
Yeah, well, the same thing. Musk is proposing that we take a look because I know Rand Paul's tried doing it, Senator Mike Lee as well.
Yep.
A lot of these guys have requested to have visitation there. And of course, as everyone knows the expression, tight like Fort Knox, it's one of the most well-guarded military installations in the country. But they're U.S. senators, and rightfully so. If you're not having a daily or annual audit, I'm sure you would want to at least have maybe every few years or at least once a decade. I mean, the fact that you're going back to 1953 with no formal site-wide audit of all the nation's gold, especially considering FDR's executive order in the 30s to have all of the Americans hand in their gold for paper currency in exchange. I mean, we should have a giant stockpile down there. So why does everyone have the feeling that there isn't a giant stockpile down there? And if that is the case, where is our gold?
Where'd it go? And nobody would be surprised at this point if the gold was gone. Because the money's been gone. Everything's been gone. We've been stolen from. This is the biggest corruption ring, the biggest crime in history, notwithstanding the Holocaust and the death of Jesus. This is the biggest crime that has ever been pulled off on people. And we're only at the tip of the iceberg.
And just think about, I'm under the belief, as I'm sure all our viewers are, that this is about accountability. I mean, Doge would be exposing the fact, if they were allowed to audit Fort Knox, that maybe we are actually gold broke compared to what we've been touting. So, the mainstream media trying to make this whole argument that they're looking to steal all our money and that, Doge is just going to cut the agencies to benefit themselves is insane. It really is hey, this is the era of transparency. Elon Musk says it all the time. The voters voted for the reform. They want to see what actually is going on. It needs to be said. It needs to be done. Caroline Leavitt was on Hannity, kind of reassuring people when they want to audit the Social Security Administration, it's not because they're looking to take your Social Security check. They're trying to make sure that you're not actually being stolen from the people who run the whole agency.
We have that clip, do we not?
We do.
Get that clip ready, Ryan. We're not going to play it just yet. I want to give two things about Social Security before she goes on, so this way people understand. First of all, Doge discovered that there are 394 million Social Security recipients in the United States, despite the fact that this country only has 334 million people in it. Think about that for a second. So we got 60 million people on the Social Security rolls who aren't entitled to Social Security, that don't have a Social Security number. That's not a problem. Think about how many things would still be going on nefariously if Elon Musk and Doge were not working with Trump at the capacity that they are. So Elon Musk is bringing up problems with this. Well, the Social Security chief, Michelle King, doesn't like this, so she resigned. So now Trump's putting somebody else in, just so this way you know, all right? We're cleaning this up. Trump's not going to steal any money from people who are on Social Security. But I'll tell you what, the scumbags in Washington, D.C. sure will. Play the video.
Have been fighting fake news reporters all day long here in the Washington, D.C. swamp, who are trying to fearmonger the American people into believing that this administration is going after their hard-earned tax dollars and their hard-earned Social Security checks. So I want to set the record straight on your show tonight, Sean, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. President Trump has directed Elon Musk and the Doge team to identify fraud at the Social Security Administration. They haven't dug into the books yet, but they suspect that there are tens of millions of deceased people who are receiving fraudulent Social Security payments. And so their goal in going into the Social Security Administration is to identify three things. Number one, to identify duplicate payments and to end them. Number two, to identify payments that are going to deceased people who are no longer living and should no longer be receiving that money. And number three, to protect the integrity of this system for hardworking Americans who have been paying into it their entire lives. So rest assured to all of the people watching your show tonight, if you paid into the system, honestly, you will continue to receive your Social Security checks. Do not buy into the lies from the legacy fake news media who are trying to fear you and scare you into believing otherwise. This is what we've seen them do about President Trump for years with every promise that he has made. And he's going in there to protect your hard-earned money. That is the ultimate goal.
We had this in the 47 report. It seems that in total, since Doge was created, they have approximately saved $55 billion. And I think we'll probably get even more clarity on their operations, probably for our show tomorrow, because tonight, Elon Musk and Trump will be interviewed by Hannity that's going to air. So I'm sure they'll talk a lot about that.
It's the money part of what they've saved, because they've canceled a lot of the BS contracts, and that's what the $55 billion is coming up with. But think about how many things that they've revealed that have where the wagon has already left the station. All these crazy, progressive, far-left initiatives that do absolutely nothing for the American people. There is in the 47 report, I can't remember, it's under the Congress tab. There is a congressman, he's a Republican lawmaker, and he said he believes that the further we go down this list, the further we go down and look deeper within, that it is going to be revealed that this money was leaving the United States on purpose, washing itself through outside nations, and then landing back in the pockets of U.S. lawmakers.
Tim Burchett.
That, to me, is a definite. Because one thing that we've also showed on the 47 report, and maybe you've seen this in other areas as well, Google does, they monitor what people search for. You could do that. I mean, it's actually, it's a thing you could look up for. And I'll give you an example. Let's say, for instance, bird flu right now is in the United States. You'll see that there'll be a spike of people searching for bird flu. They want the information. Well, in Washington, D.C., since the time that Trump has taken the election to the time that he took office, the spikes in Washington, D.C. for searches for criminal attorneys and other things associated to that sort of thing has gone crazy, which means that all of these lawmakers are sitting there and saying, I need to protect my ass. How do I protect my ass? You don't search for something like that unless you know you've got something to hide. And if you don't think that the machine has been working against all of us, Pete Hegseth yesterday posts a letter to him and his wife that he received just prior to Biden leaving office, that the IRS was conducting an audit on Pete Hegseth. Think about that. Think about that. You think that's just by happen chance? You think that's just by coincidence? Not a chance. This is the corruption that we have been dealing with in the United States for the longest freaking time.
I want to add some more fun to that Google search word spike. So you are correct, lawyers. I think it's about a 400% jump since December 1st in the DC area. But some other notable search terms that have also spiked in the last few weeks: Swiss bank accounts, offshore accounts, wire transfers, how to wipe Google searches from your history, and then statute of limitations. So clearly, if you look at what's going on in DC, there is universal panic. And I revert back to the quote I said yesterday from Julian Assange, that if 98% of DC was investigated, they would all be found to be tied to criminality somehow.
Absolutely.
Somehow it's actually really proving itself. It's just showing how many people were making money that they shouldn't have been making.
And I'll tell you where another area is that they've all been making money. They've been making money with illegal immigration.
Yes.
All right. You know, there's the old adage, the old theory, and I've always fought back about it, that Republicans wanted illegal immigration to take place in the United States because they loved cheap labor, and that the Democrats wanted it because they wanted the cheap votes. And although both of those things are definitely correct, let's not forget that the left has businesses too. Okay, there are a lot of Democrats who own businesses. They want cheap labor as well. I don't know why they always got the pass on that, right? Then the other part of it for the votes, well, it's not existing votes, it's future votes, all right? It's future votes. And there's a lot of shenanigans that take place with these illegal aliens getting money, and I'm telling you, it all spins back to these NGOs, because these NGOs make a ton of money from illegal aliens coming into this country, whether it's the transportation of, whether it is the feeding of, whether it is the locking them up in jail, whatever it is, they make a ton of money, and it's getting kickbacks to these lawmakers. Trust me.
Yeah, just like to clarify, because you're so right about the NGOs. It's not like 5,000 migrants in Colombia all of a sudden just get together randomly and are able to organize. Trust me, they don't. It's these NGOs that organize these giant migrant groups and then send them up the Darien Gap through Mexico to the border. They are the ones who facilitate those travel processes.
Look, they are recruiting. Think about
the caravans, I should say.
Yes. Think about the crime there for a second. All right, so people can understand what we're talking about. An NGO, in case you don't know, is a non-government. It's a non-government entity, but it does the government's work through proxy. All right. So let's say, for instance, that Joe Biden and Barack Obama want to flood this country with 20 million illegal aliens. How are they going to do it? How are they going to do it? Barack Obama and Joe Biden can't get on television and blatantly say, come on to the United States, we're going to let you in, although they started to do that as time went on. I remember when the debate, when Biden was running for president, they said, how would you handle this? He says, I'm going to throw billions of dollars down at the border to help facilitate these people. That's a way of saying, come on in. But the better way of doing it is that you give contracts to these NGOs that have contracts with the United States. So let's just call it Company XYZ. And Company XYZ knows that when 20 million people come into this country over 4 years, they're going to need transportation to somewhere USA. So they know that they've got 20 million customers in the waiting. They know they've got somebody who is guaranteed to pay for that customer in the U.S. government. So the only thing they've got to do is get the customers to the country. And so they spend their time and effort to get those people to come up. And they do it through proxy as well. They'll hire companies, they'll hire agents, they'll hire everybody else to go out and start bringing these caravans. So it is the perfect crime.
Yes.
It is the perfect illegal crime. And to put this into perspective, let me give you some of the statistics we have here on 47 Report. Remember, this entire show is always inspired by 47 Report. So everything we're giving you here, we're giving you the detail, but you would have heard about this this morning in your inbox. A government watchdog group reports that Biden's HHS, Health and Human Services, just HHS, spent $22 billion on migrants over the last few years. According to the report, money went toward buying cars, homes, business loans of up to $15,000, and loans to repair credit scores for illegal aliens. I want to repeat that. $22 billion just from HHS.
Yeah, I'm hoping with RFK in there that the prioritization, obviously, of migrants making sure they have those funds is complete. It should be zero, absolutely $0. All that money at HHS should be, okay, how do we stop poisoning our Americans with the food supply currently? And how do we get people to realize maybe you should go out and go for a 30-minute walk rather than rely on drugs? You know, that's what they should be focused on.
Look, just to go away on a tangent for a second, we'll come back to immigration in a moment. But I mean, here, another thing from the 47 report, I'll read it out loud. HHS leader Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says he will investigate any potential threat posed by prescription SSRIs, which basically are the antidepressants and the anxiety drugs and all this stuff that we keep on throwing down the throats of our kids and adults here. He's going to start to investigate that. That's where I want the $22 billion to go if we're going to spend that much money. I don't want to go on these illegal aliens, but that's where it has been going. All right? So I'll give you an example. Here's a perfect example of an NGO. A San Diego migrant shelter run by a Jewish family service is closing after 6 years, laying off 115 employees due to the Trump administration's policy changes. The NGO cited the halt of new asylum arrivals since the One App,
The CPP One App, yep.
outage on January 20. So in other words, here was an NGO that was established 6 years ago.
Yep.
6 years ago, knowing that Joe Biden was going to send in the world. They set up a company. They're going to get a ton of money from Joe Biden. And now the party's over. What do? They shut down.
Yeah, it can't be even more obvious with, it's in San Diego. It's like it's
totally
by design.
They are not really a company. They are a front, and they're making money for doing the dirty work of the U.S. government. That's what this is all about. Now, with that said, I'll give you the positive side of what's happening with immigration. Border Czar Tom Homan said in the last 24 hours, this was a tweet that he put out last night, Border Patrol agents only encountered 229 people. That's 229 at the southern border. Understand, 229, not in a sector, in the entire border. 2,000 miles, 229 people. Typically, during Biden's days, that would be 11,000. In addition to that, he says that interior arrests by ICE have increased more than 137% under President Trump. Arrests of illegal aliens with criminal convictions have doubled under President Trump, and the arrests of illegal alien gang members have also doubled.
He
don't we have him?
He talked about his efforts on Hannity last night. His overall emphasis is that he's happy, but they know that they have a lot of work to still do.
All right, let's play that video.
First of all, I got to salute President Trump. He's been in office less than a month. I said from day one on your show, Sean, he's a game changer. He proves to the American people every day why I consider him the greatest president in my lifetime. No one's had success like this. But I've said it. I'm happy the numbers are up. I'm happy with the results so far. I am not satisfied. I will not be satisfied till every gang member, every illegal alien gang member, every illegal alien public safety threat and national security threat is eradicated from this country. So we're expanding the amount of teams now. We got Pam Bondi suing the sanctuary cities. We got Christy Noem on now. She's been out with the Border Patrol. She's been out with ICE. She's done more enforcement operations in a week than Mayorkas has done in 4 years. Our team's coming together. You got the architect protect Steve Miller. We're all working together to increase those numbers until we can eradicate once and for all every illegal alien gang member and public safety threat and national security threat in this country. It's all on. Our foot's on the gas. And God bless President Trump for giving us the authorities, the resources to do this job. It's his vision that's making this all possible.
You know, so while Homan and ICE can only do so much with the arrests and deportations, and hopefully they can overcome those limitations, you know, a big thing that helps with preventing the crossovers and illegal immigration is honestly the messaging. And Kristi Noem just launched like $1 million ad campaign to basically tell the world we are no longer accepting illegal aliens into this country. Rye has that clip too.
I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump, for securing our border and putting America first. Let me deliver a message from President Trump to the world. If you are considering entering America illegally, don't even think about it. Let me be clear. If you come to our country and you break our laws, we will hunt you down. Criminals are not welcome in the United States. For too long, weak leadership has left our borders wide open, flooding our communities with drugs, human trafficking, and violent criminals. Well, those days are over. Under President Trump, we are defending American families and restoring their safety. If you try to enter illegally, you will be caught, you will be removed, and you will never return. Follow the law, and you'll find opportunity. If you break it, you'll find consequences. Strong borders mean a stronger America. President Trump is making America safe again.
The only thing that'd be better than that commercial is if we were to start recording, and I've been calling for this for years, if we would start to record the deportations of people, start to record raids at public places, raids at workplaces, letting people not only here in the country who hire illegal aliens, but people who are back home who are thinking about coming to the United States, although there aren't many anymore, all looking at these commercials that are basically live feeds and saying, okay, party's over.
Yeah.
I'm going home. Self-deportation is the greatest tool we have in getting rid of the people who are here. It costs us nothing, and they all go home. And it sends a message around the world. And so I think we're getting closer.
Yeah, it really does send the message. I mean, even in terms of the leadership style, right? Like, I forget how old Trump is actually because he doesn't look it or move it
Or act it.
or act it. You know, in our crazy left section of the 47 report, the RNC actually did a study over Joe Biden's presidency, and they found that 39% of his presidency was spent on vacation. And they also, just to put it in perspective, they said the average American would need 52 years of work to match Biden's time off. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and the other,
Like, I mean, he was more than a third of his presidency. He wasn't around.
and the other half of his presidency was basically trying to get illegal aliens into this country. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. But even now, what's starting to happen is the Democrats are starting to figure out that this is what the American people wanted. This is another thing that came out of the 47 report today, the Congress section. A House Democrats' attempt to oppose a border enforcement bill backfired when dozens of Democrats voted in favor. House Resolution 35 criminalizes fleeing law enforcement within 100 miles of the border. So if you're an illegal alien and you're trying to escape the Border Patrol, you're screwed. You know, and there were Democrats who were going to vote against this. And then some Democrats, said, hey, come on. At this point, this is crazy.
Because this law was based on the death of a Border Patrol agent.
Of a Border Patrol agent, right.
Mhm.
A Border Patrol agent. And, you know, it's amazing. I mean, just going back for 1 second to some of the craziness that has been spent and what Biden was allowing to happen. This is another one that we've just got to at least touch real quick before we go into some of these other different things that the left has done. Congressman Eli Crane and the House Oversight Committee have highlighted that a significant amount of taxpayer funds, reportedly $240 million worth, were allocated to research involving transgender surgeries and treatments on animals. On animals. We were spending $250 million. Think about this for just 1 second. $250 million on animals getting transgender surgeries and $22 billion on HHS giving things like loans and cars to illegal aliens. I want you to go up to one Find me one American. We've got 340 million people in this country. Find me one that says that they wanted their tax money to go to either one of those two things, and I'll quit. I'll quit this job. I'll quit this job because there's not one.
I also can't remember the last time your dog or my dog said that they were the other gender. So why are we even creating a study of that nature? We shouldn't be messing with, if anything, that almost kind of sounds like borderline torture if you're doing transgender surgeries on animals that never asked for it. That to me just sounds almost evil.
Now, it is evil. It is evil. And, it's funny because the people who would say, I want to protect that, are probably the same people who wear pink vaginas on their head and are marching up and down right now. I mean, there are people right now marching up and down in Washington, D.C., thousands of them. They all look stranger than the next, all championing against Trump. They want Trump gone. I mean, we're 4 weeks in. They're already having their their crap going on down there in Washington, D.C. Now, here's the thing. Do those people who are crybabying about Trump realize any of these things? Do they realize that $250 million was spent on transgender surgeries for dogs? I mean, do they? I doubt they do because they're not informed, because the mainstream media will not give them the truth, will not give them anything even close to the truth. Yesterday, there was a plane. We've got a video of it. We'll put that first, and then we'll go to the drag queen. But there was a plane yesterday in Canada. Do we have B-roll on this, or it's just B-roll? Mm-hmm. All right, so we don't have a video. Ryan will play the B-roll. So yesterday, I think it's a Delta flight. Is it Delta flight?
Yep.
A Delta flight in Canada wound up landing and flipping over, and because it's all snowy and everything like that, and landed upside down. On NBC, the chief correspondent on NBC blamed this on Trump.
Yeah.
They blamed it on Trump and his cuts to the FAA. But meanwhile, in Canada, the FAA does not control the flights.
They're morons. Even in the 47 report, Eric Swalwell, notorious Democrat lawmaker, tried claiming that Trump had more plane crashes in his first month as president. And yet when you actually look at the comparison, Biden actually had more plane crashes than Trump. So yeah, they're all jumping down Trump's throat, trying to connect these plane crashes to him. He's been in office for 30 days. These are not directly at all related to anything that he's making policy. This is all based on the last 4 years of things like DEI infiltrating these industries.
Now, we just told you that there are people in D.C. right now protesting against Donald J. Trump. And I want you to watch this video and argue against me that not all these people always look like that. Why do all the Biden, Kamala fans, all the Democrats, and all the haters of Trump all look freaky? Why is it always the case? Why aren't there any normal people ever in that mix? Ryan, play the video of this person who is outside Washington, D.C., the Capitol.
Charles, oh my gosh, here I am at the protest at 5051. It is so exciting to be down here with so many people, fighting the good fight and doing the good things, darlings. We have to get to the streets, make our voices heard, and don't forget, darlings, while you're doing it, stay gorgeous.
Again, this is why the Democrats will never be taken seriously. You kind of said something I may need to
Wait, let me just say for 1 second before you do that. For the people who are listening, that was a drag queen.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go ahead. What do you say? You disagreed with one thing? What would you?
There are some Democrats there that do know that there are $200 million being spent on transgender whatever in other countries and whatnot, and yet they somehow think it's righteous or viable. And honestly, I think those that are on that very left, like fringe spectrum of the left, they just can't be saved at this point. If, in the sense of, how do you convince them otherwise that sending our own taxpayer money to something that is completely meaningless and, if anything, probably cruel to the human body is in any way justified? And I've seen it. I've seen people, on the left who look like that, whether it's a drag queen or just their style appearance, trying to justify that all this money we're sending to other people is the right thing to do, that we should be spending less on our own people and that we should be giving it out. And honestly, that's just traitorous to me.
Dennis, they on 60 Minutes over the weekend. Not only did they cover the stuff with Germany that we discussed yesterday, in it, with the censorship of people and everything else, but they wound up having 2 employees that got fired from their government job, and these people sat there and talked like they're entitled, guaranteed, for the rest of their life to have a high-paying job and doing nothing. And then they brought in a guy who, looks totally normal, and said everything that you're hearing from Elon Musk is completely a lie. USAID had lawyers and accountants all in place to make sure that there was no nefarious stuff. But you know what 60 Minutes never did? Never brought up the stuff that the money was being spent on and asked, well, how can you justify that? Right? So, okay, we understand that $40 million wasn't being pulled out and stuck in somebody's pocket. What it was doing, it was going through a laundry.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. But 60 Minutes knows that. There's another great thing. I mean, it would be great to play it on the show, but it's no good for people who are just listening to the program. There is a video going on right now on X. It is phenomenal. In fact, we should put it on the app, or at least tomorrow. Make a note to it, Dennis, to put it on the newsletter tomorrow. There is a video that's going on right now that shows the edited version of Leslie Stahl interviewing Donald J. Trump, 60 Minutes, going back right before the election, and then the unedited version. And when you see what it is that these scumbags pull out of that interview, it is highly disgusting. And that's why I say to Donald J. Trump, and I say to every single last Republican out there, if you go on one of these TV shows and it's anything but live, you do not do it.
Mm-hmm.
The live television hit, that's one thing. They can't mask over it. But when you go on a taped, you are setting yourself up to fail. It is that simple. You cannot do it. These people are the biggest scumbags in the world. The media, the biggest scumbags in the world. It's the Seattle Times. You can't get more liberal than the Seattle Times. This is out of the 47 report, 47report.com. The Seattle Times published a report urging the public to record and report ICE activity, but advised against sharing it on social media. Instead, it provided instructions on documenting ICE actions and reporting them to the Deportation Defense Hotline. So in other words, you've got a major city in its major newspaper telling its citizens to basically ignore a federal agency that is trying to impose the rule of law.
Yeah, and it's kind of hitting state law enforcement too. I mean, let's go to the other coast. In Boston, their police commissioner, who was appointed by Mayor Michelle Wu, who is as leftist as it comes, the commissioner affirmed that the city's stance will to be against enforcing the Trump administration's deportation policies. So you basically have an entire city police force that will not be copacetic or working in tandem with ICE based on the directions of a liberal mayor. Come on. It's absolutely absurd.
So there's one other thing absurd too. I know we're bouncing around a little bit right now, but there's so much stuff here. Like as I said to you in the beginning, it's almost impossible to get it all. But here's another thing. I've got to read this because I'd blow it otherwise. Fox News reporter Bill Melugin posted a jaw-dropping list on X on Monday, identifying many of the NGOs and local governments who received massive amounts of taxpayer dollars from FEMA in the year 2024. And this money was used for illegal aliens. FEMA, which is supposed to be giving money to the people from natural disasters here in the United States. Remember, the people of Hawaii got $700. The people in North Carolina still living in tents, right? Couldn't get anything, right? Here you go. SSP grants of $10 million plus. These are just in 2024. These are people who only got over 10 million. Forget about the ones who got under 10 million, okay? It's important to say. Catholic Charities of San Diego, 21 million. Catholic Charities of San Diego, again, 19.5 million. Catholic Charities of San Antonio, 16.9 million. The City of Los Angeles, 21.9 million. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, $15.5 million. Save the Children in Connecticut, $15.9 million. Border Servant Corps, $15 million. Jewish Family Service that we just talked about got $22 million just in 1 year alone. Mission, Border Hope, Eagle Pass, Texas, $12 million. El Paso County, $17 million. New York City, $39 million. New York City again, $22 million. New York City again, $20 million. State of Arizona, $19 million. Pima County, Arizona, $22 million. Pima County, Arizona again, $19 million. Maricopa County, Arizona, $11.6 million. San Diego County, $19.5 million. City of Atlanta, $10.8 million. City and County of Denver, $12.6 million. And the City of Chicago, $12.2 million. Roughly $641 million of FEMA taxpayer funds were allocated to NGOs and local governments in fiscal year 2024 as part of FEMA's Shelter and Services Program for illegal aliens.
You know, I don't want to ever hear again about, you know, if I'm wasting my money on something, because that has to be the most colossal amount of wasted money ever. That is incredibly insane.
It's not even a waste of money, Dennis. To your point, you're absolutely right. It's a waste of money, but it's a misallocation of funds. So when you're sitting there and think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
If you're sitting in Hawaii and your world just blew apart, burned down, and you're sitting there and saying, "Where's my government?" Don't worry, FEMA's coming. Oh, okay, good. Boy, and think about this. Oh, I never understood really what FEMA did. All right, I saw it on television, whatever, but I guess my tax money's good. All right, I'm going to get something back. Here you go, Mr. Lynch, $700 for your house that was just worth $700,000. What? What did you just say? What? $700? Yes, sorry. We gave $641 million to FEMA for the shelters for migrants. If this doesn't make you want to go out and just, I can't even say it because then, they'll be knocking on my door. If this doesn't make you want to go out and just scream, I don't know what will. I don't know what will. I have no idea what will. Look, here's another one, right? This is a perfect example of the crap that we have been dealing with in the United States. This is so small, but yet it's so large. The Associated Press right now is on Trump's freaking
blacklist.
Why? Because the Associated Press will not now acknowledge the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America. Google has changed its maps for it. Everybody is basically coalescing around it. It's been renamed. That's it. AP won't do it because AP is as liberal as they come. So Trump says, "You're not going to do it? You are an ambassador of fake news then, because every time you say Gulf of Mexico, you're lying. So get out. You're not allowed on Air Force One. You're not allowed in the White House. You're done." Okay. Here's to prove that the AP is really a scumbag organization. The AP published an article that quoted a fired government worker who claimed that the official Doge, Elon Musk, Facebook account harassed them before firing them. There's only one problem with that claim that AP published. And guess what it is, Dennis?
They don't have a Facebook page.
Doge does not operate a Facebook page. So how in heaven's name can that be? That's what you call fake news. That's what you call propaganda. That's what you call slander.
Yeah, we even put this in the 47 report. I love how J.D. Vance has been stepping up to the plate to combat the BS. You had Mehdi Hassan, who I think is one of the worst people in media. He used to work for NBC. He was basically targeting Vance and the Trump administration, saying that by not allowing the AP to be sitting in with them in their press conference rooms, that it's a blockade of free speech. And Vance correctly points out to him, like, us not choosing a particular reporter group, who, by the way, is more than welcome to join when they want to get something correct, definitely is nowhere near equivalent, by the way, to Germany or Europe locking up citizens because they posted a nice little funny meme about a migrant, being a nuisance to their society. And it's such a good point. That is not a blockade of free speech. That is, oh wait, you're actually legitimate fake news. We told you what our administration's about. You're not going to do it. You're welcome to come back. Just fix what we told you need to fix that everyone else has done.
Now, here's the incredible part about what you're talking about. That whole thing blew up online, right? That whole little argument between the two of them. J.D. Vance actually referred to him, Hassan, as a dummy.
Yeah.
And so the left doesn't care about the fake news, analogy that went on. All they care is about that J.D. Vance disrespected a guy who called him out as a dummy.
By the way, when Kyiv needed the spelling changed, so that it was farther away from Russian ties, AP had no problem changing over the spelling or replacing riots with protests when that was recommended too. So they'll make those changes when it suits them, but gosh forbid, it's something pro-America. The AP, our government's press is not going to do it.
Hold on, AP. Think about this for a second. You've got the Gulf of Mexico changed the Gulf of America. The AP and liberals are complaining that they're changing the name of something that's been there forever. And yet, for the last 4 years, we have had people say that they're changing their name from Danielle to Danny or Daniel. And if you didn't do that, you were dead naming somebody.
Yes.
If you wouldn't change the name, right? We had people saying that you can't call me by my name, Stephen. I want you to be calling me by his, her, by my pronouns. So it's good for this, but it's not good for that. Listen, these progressives are so out of their mind. This is one of the last ones I'll read here. The state of Washington, the lawmakers in Washington have introduced a House bill to consider removing George Washington, the first president of the United States, where a state is named after him. They want to take him off the state flag because the bill proposes a committee to design a flag that better reflects the diversity and values of Washington residents. Can you believe this?
I don't know how do you beat something so twisted like that? The state that is named after our first president apparently is not inclusive enough for it. Just, I swear, progressives need to really, really take a look in the mirror because they have no concept of self-reflection here.
Yeah, the big problem is that when they look in the mirror, Dennis, they like what they see, and the reason why is because I say it all the time. They are mentally insane.
Nope.
And insanity is not, when I say mentally insane, I'm not making a joke. These people are mentally ill. Mental illness is a severe problem in the country. I think it's the #1 health epidemic. And until it's addressed, they're going to stay sick.
Yeah, I mean, just to even mention it, this past weekend was SNL's, 50th anniversary, and talk about a show that's really, really fallen off. And of course, they have Tom Hanks, doing their stereotype Trump supporter who's acting all racist and won't shake a black man's hand. And it just shows like they're so out of touch that this is why their viewership continues to decline year after year. The only people who care about SNL is just SNL.
Yep. All right, a couple of little things here before we leave. First of all, you'll see that I drink from this coffee mug, right, if you want to go tight in on it. It is my new program. I have a new program on the weekends called Life After 50. And what I do is I interview people who are 50 and over who have amazing stories to tell. And the reviews on this, excuse me, are unbelievable. People just absolutely love the show. We have a program coming up this weekend, which I think is the best so far. I interviewed just days ago an immigrant from Ghana in Africa. And it is the greatest immigration story I have ever heard. And coming from me, that says a lot. You do not want to miss this interview. But if you go to 47report.com and you sign up there, or if you already have the email, just a little pitch here. We don't get paid for doing that newsletter. We don't get paid. And if you go in there, you'll see there's no advertisements in there. Monday through Saturday, we put it out there. On Sundays, I do an op-ed, but Monday to Saturday, there is never, ever an ad for anything. If you want to help us continue doing the 47 Report, it's real simple. Buy one of these mugs. They're a great coffee mug. It's a great coffee mug. It's big, normal size mug. And it says, Life After 50 podcast, the best is yet to come. You can get it for, I think it's $17 with shipping. Just go to dmlcbd.com/mug, MUG. Put on the code LIFE, LIFE, when you're checking out. That will save you $2 and the free shipping. And that helps us. I mean, just such a small little purchase helps us continue going with the costs of the newsletter, because there are costs to it. So that's that. In terms of what's coming up, God willing, we'll be with you again tomorrow. Like I said, in the morning, you'll get the 47 report. Go to 47report.com. And that is that. We appreciate you being with us today. Good job, Brian, on the controls. Denny, good commentary. Thanks for putting the show together. And thank you for watching, because we know you have other options to watch and listen, but you choose us. And we think we have the greatest show because we have the greatest supporters. So until the next time, God willing, tomorrow, may God bless you, your family, these United States, and our president and vice president.
And today's Team DML blessing goes out to Mark Pepping.
All right, Mark, run with it, baby.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.